you guys know me, my name is Harley, and I'm going to do a sermon. So, if God loved me, why would he put me through so much stuff? If he loves me the way he says he does, then I shouldn't be going through this, right? I mean, I go to church, I serve, I pray, but that's a lot better than what other people are doing. I mean, I should not have to go through so much pain and suffering because God's supposed to love me, right? Well, I'm sure a lot of people feel that way. And I'm sure that there was a specific person in the Bible that felt that way as well. And his name is Job. So in Job 1:6-8, it says that one day the angels came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them. The Lord said to Satan, "Where have you come from?" Satan answered the Lord, "From roaming throughout the earth, going back and forth on it." Then the Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil." Okay, let's go back to those verses. One day the angels came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them. And so I guess you could say the angels were like God's bodyguard, and they escorted Satan up to God. That's how I see it. But it looks like Satan was looking for someone to pick on, but he had to get God's permission first. Why would he have to get God's permission? Well, it's because he's not as strong and he's not as powerful as everyone thinks he is. So, Satan had to go to God first. And the second part is that, have you considered my servant Job? Well, you can say that Job was God's idea. God chose Job. But why? God chose Job not because he wanted bad things to happen to him, but because God believed in Job. Just like a pastor at Life Church says, his name is Craig Rochelle, he said, "A faith that has been tested is a faith that can be trusted." Also, Peter 1:6 and Romans 8:38. Peter 1:6 states that, "So be truly glad, there is wonderful joy ahead, even though you may endure trials," or even though you must endure trials, while these trials will show that your faith is genuine. As well as Romans 8:31, it says, "If God is for you, then who could ever be against you?" So if God believed in Job, and he chose Job, does that mean that his pain was for a purpose? His pain was for a reason? I am sure that every single one of you, probably all of you guys, have gone through some type of trial, some type of something that created your testimony, right? And if you haven't, then you probably should look back on your faith and probably should evaluate your faith, because God chose Job because he believed in Job, not because he was weak and he couldn't defend himself. But Job was known as blameless and upright. A guy that's blameless and upright, would he spend 26 verses cursing his death? On Job 10:8, it says that your hands shaped me and made me, but now you will turn and destroy me? Job 10:2, I loathe my very life. God, do not declare me guilty, but tell me what charges you have against me. So does this mean that someone who is blameless and upright is also allowed to have these thoughts and feelings? That they are not perfect, they're not perfect Christians, because who is? He had all of these thoughts, but he was considered blameless and upright by the one that created him. So So let me ask you two questions to close this out. Who do you have in your circle? Who is pouring life into you? Because it sure was not Job's wife that he chose to do life with. She said, "Are you still maintaining your integrity? Curse God and die." Chapter 2, verse 9. And if you knew the purpose behind your struggle, or if you knew that it was coming and why it was happening, is that still considered faith? Job went through so much, but he didn't know why this was happening to him. If he did know, if God's like, "Hey, by the way, this is going to happen to you," that's not considered faith, and then that he would not have used this for a purpose. To prove Satan wrong, your pain is for a purpose. So I decided, after I wrote this sermon, I decided that God is for us. God does love us. And our worth is not measurable because we are created in the image of God. So if you are a faithful servant and you're blameless and upright, you will go through trials. And that doesn't mean God's against you. It just means that he believes in you and he knows that you're strong enough. Thank you.